Is it bigger than a bread box?
Not yet.
It's a funny thing.
Who's the father?
Actually, it's me.
It's a fabulous thing.
Robert's moving in with me, and we're going to raise the baby together. Robert?
Are you telling us you're straight now?
It's a family thing.
Happy New Year!
Rupert Everett, Madonna.
Why don't you sleep in Mommy's room?
And yesterday, he was only 5.
The next best thing.
She smells like a great big old helicopter taking off.
Rated PG-13. This Friday in theaters everywhere.
Or at least this is supposedly a romantic comedy, except, a little problem here. As you can see from that trailer, you have a heterosexual woman played by Madonna and a gay man played by Rupert Everett who decide to have a child together. 5 years later, she falls in love with a heterosexual man and wants to move away from him, and Robert's son Sam, and a nasty custody battle ensues. So it's kind of like trying to be the next Kramer versus Kramer, I guess, except Dustin Hoffman's character is gay and Meryl Streep is not. I mean, I don't know what the hell is going on in this movie. Who thought this was a good idea? But then again, this writer has written some great works in the past, such as Loverboy with Patrick Dempsey, and Look Who's Talking Now, and The Kiss, and yeah, this thing was done on arrival from the get-go, and what another movie with a director going out on a low point in his career, because this director, John Schlesinger, only died 3 years after this movie came out, and boy, what a horrible movie to go out on, because, man, this is terrible. And supposedly this was rewritten extensively, not just by Rupert Everett, but of all people, Ryan Murphy. That Ryan Murphy, the guy who gave us Glee, the guy who gave us Nip Tuck, American Horror Story. And it gets even weirder from there. This was supposedly a movie that was supposed to be made with Richard Dreyfuss and Helen Hunt to star in it in 1995. I mean, just, this thing should never, ever have gotten past the scripting process. They needed to go back in there, rewrite this into a way that this could have worked. But even then, this one probably couldn't even do that. It would take some of the greatest screenwriters of all time, and they probably would have never, ever found a way to make this work. This is a film that just feels like too much is going on here, and it's trying to be like a serious comedy. Like I said, trying to be kind of like a Kramer versus Kramer for a new generation, but man, this thing just falls apart so quickly. It's a shame, too, because Madonna has made a lot of good movies where she has been a pretty good actress, and she's not terrible in this, but at the same time, she's not really given a whole lot to do, because her character, as well as Rupert Everett's character, none of this makes any sense whatsoever. Why they would decide to have a child together, and I mean, maybe you could probably do. I mean, there are ways to do it, but this movie just feels so tone deaf. It just feels like a film that does not know exactly what the hell it wanted to do in terms of the story, what was the end goal for this whole thing. And again, this writer is not helping things when his script. This guy has written some of the worst movies of recent memories, but recent of the time period. But yeah, this is not a good movie. This is not a good film at all. This is a waste of a lot of great talent in here. Not just the two leads. Benjamin Bratt's also in here. So is Michael Vartan, Lynn Redgrave, Neil Patrick Harris, Elena Douglas, Mark Valley, Linda Larkin. I mean, there is a lot of good talent in this film, just being wasted on a film that was clearly dead on arrival. And yeah, this is a mess. This is a mess of a film that should have never gotten past the writing process to begin with, until they actually got a good script that actually doesn't feel like it's completely missing the point of what it's trying to accomplish. This is just, it's just a mess of a film. Avoid this one like the plague. So, with that said, on to our next movie, and that is another star-studded film, Drowning Mona.
Mona Dearly was always flying off the handle.
You don't find me attractive no more.
Of course I don't. Until the day she flew off a cliff.
So you want to tell me what happened?
Now everyone in For Plank
I didn't do it!
is a suspect. Danny DeVito, Bette Midler, Nev Campbell, Jamie Lee Curtis, Casey Affleck, and Will Ferrell.
What are you gonna do? You gonna hit me?
Drowning Mona.
There are other ways to show you care.
Rated PG-13. Starts this Friday.
Okay, I already saw the problem with this right away. PG-13 dark comedy. You can't have a dark comedy at PG-13 and expect it to be a hit. Like, go all R or just don't make the movie at all. You have the story here about a police officer played by Danny DeVito, who investigates the murder of this person, played by Bette Midler, who's a spiteful, hard-drinking, loudmouth, abusive woman, hated by all who knew her. Basically the Karen before we got the term Karen, who drove her son's car off a cliff and drowned in a river. And a lot of good talent in this film, but again, kind of like with a couple of other movies we've looked at as of late, it doesn't know exactly what it wants to do to be in that tone, to give the tone that it wants to have. Like I said before, you can't do a PG-13 dark comedy and expect it to work as well as it does. You either go or hell, Danny DeVito knows this all too well. He made one of the best dark comedies of all time in The War of the Roses, which was rated R. I mean, it's just bad. It's like a bad sitcom comedy in a way. It wastes too many good talented people. You see the cast in there, and just, there's nothing about this movie that's worth it in the end. It's just a really lackluster comedy that doesn't go all in as it should, and just wants to gets the cheapest laughs out of you possible by doing something completely stupid, and it just doesn't work. It's not a funny movie. It's not an engaging film. It wastes way too many talented people in the long run. It's just a mess. It's a mess of a film on so many levels. Avoid this one like the plague. So, with that said, on to our next movie, and that is Three Strikes.
From the co-writer of Friday.
You gonna pick me up from jail in this stolen car? I got 2 strikes already.
And the producers of Dumb and Dumber comes a welcome home so big, the media is covering it.
Oh, yeah.
The family is watching it.
Walk and run, can he? Well, like me, I used to be a superstar.
And the cops
Come out with your hands up and you will not be harmed.
just want a shot at it.
Look out, he's got a gun.
3 Strikes. Rated R. Starts Wednesday, March 1st.
Yet another misguided comedy that has no idea what the hell it wants to do. You have Brian Hooks playing a character who is just released from jail after the state adopts a 3 strikes rule for felons that includes serious penalties. Hooks has 2 strikes and wants to change his life for the better. When a friend picks him up, they are pulled over and his friend shoots at police officers and Hooks escapes. Now Hooks, a wanted man, must clear his name or of having nothing to do with the shooting. And you would think that there would be something to this, but nope. Nope, not at all. I mean, this guy's probably a good actor. I've never seen him in anything significant except for Eve, but even then, his most notable role that he had besides those two is Soul Plane, which isn't really a good thing to have on your resume. But I don't know. This is a film that just didn't work as well as I think they wanted it to. I think they were trying to create The Next Friday. That's why they got the writer and the producer of Friday to direct this film. And you also have the producers of Dumb and Dumber on it, which those are the only 2 reasons why this movie had any notability whatsoever. They opened this on a Wednesday, thinking that this was going to be the next big comedy hit, and it didn't even hit $10 million. I mean, this is a film that is just like you see in the trailer too. You don't even know if it's supposed to be taken seriously or not. This is just a clustered mess of a film. Not good direction, not good comedy. Doesn't really even have a good plot to begin with, and it's just a waste on so many different levels. Like a film that was clearly bad. They had it sitting on a shelf for a number of years, and they just put it out to try to make a quick buck, and nobody was buying. So yeah, 3 strikes. Basically, we have 3 strikes so far. So surely we got to get better from here. I mean, let's take a look at our next film and see if we can fix anything. See if we can get better than that. Let's see. What planet are you from?
Civilization.
I went to the store this morning.
Thinks they've discovered the secret
Car started making a funny noise.
to communicating with women. This Saturday, get a sneak peek at the comedy about men,
Do you know what I'm saying, Harold?
women,
Fourth quarter.
Let me.
and the universe
What are you thinking now?
in between.
What is it with these films? Tell me about it.
What planet are you from? Rated R. Preview Saturday, opens March 3rd.
By God, it tried. You have a story here. When the leader Gradon of a highly developed civilization without emotion and composed only by asexual men reproduced by cloning devices to invade Earth, he sends his best student, played by Gary Shandling, to impregnate a woman. He is fitted with a humming penis, which, I mean, I could stop right there, but I'm going to keep going. I feel like I have to keep going. He is fitted with a humming penis and uses the identity of a banker in Phoenix. Harold is clumsy with women until he meets the promiscuous and alcoholic Susan, played by Annette Bening, in an AA meeting, and she tells him that she will only have sex when she gets married. Harold proposes Susan to get married when he is with her, to get in her pants, and when she says that she is pregnant, he has some emotion. Meanwhile, the Federal Aviation Administration agent Roland Jones, played by John Goodman, suggests that Harold is an alien. That premise alone is probably one of the reasons why you should probably stay away from this film, because, by God, it sounds incredibly insane, and considering that this comes from the director of Mike Nichols, a director that gave us The Graduate, and his last couple of years did have a couple of decent films, like The Birdcage, Primary Colors, Closer, Charlie Wilson's War. This is a film that just feels like, what the hell is even the point of this movie? I mean, a great cast overall. Gary Shandling, Annette Bening, Ray Kinnear, Ben Kingsley, Linda Fiorentino, John Goodman, Richard Jenkins, Judy Greer, Nora Dunn. There is a really talented cast on board here, and a good writing team. This is the same people that, most of the people on here are the same people that wrote for stuff like Men in Black. Gary Shandling and Peter Tolan wrote for the Larry Sanders Show. And at times, it does have those moments where there is some good comedy, like in the beginning of the film. It has the Columbia Pictures logo, Torch Lady, with Annette Bening's face plastered on her, because that was a studio in-joke, because everyone thought when that Columbia logo came out in 1993, they thought that the model was modeled off of Annette Bening, but that has since been debunked. But it's a nice little fun little gag that they have there. But other than that, though, there's an idea here that could work, but it doesn't have the right material to make it work. And this is a film they put a lot of money into. It $60 million this film cost. It barely made $14 million worldwide. Yeah, so that should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this film. It's just like, it has some ideas that could work. It has a good concept, good people on board, but too many different writers in this movie really kind of overtook what this film probably should have been. I mean, it feels like they were trying to create a Men in Black style comedy, because they got one of the writers of Men in Black, Ed Solomon, who also wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but it feels very weird. It feels like it was a film that should have been so much different than I think they wanted it to, but it just didn't live up to what they really thought it could have been. I mean, there's a lot of potential there for something interesting, but sadly, it just doesn't work in here. So, unfortunately, I have to give this one a hard pass as well. So, we are not doing good so far this week. So, maybe we can turn the mold on the last film that we have here. Forrest Whitaker as Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai.
Dog. For the past 4 years, this guy's done maybe 12 perfect contracts. He's very valuable, totally untraceable, like a ghost.
Ghost dog, power equality. Always see everything, brother.
What is that supposed to mean? It's poetry. The poetry of war.
Ghost Dog. Rated R.
So, Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai, that is such a weird title and a weird trailer, but you basically have Forrest Whitaker playing this character who's a hitman in the employ of the mafia, who follows the ancient code of the samurai, as outlined in the book of Yamamoto Tsutomu's recorded sayings, Hakakuri. And it's a film that probably should not work, because it has so many different things about it that just makes it feel like, what the hell are they thinking? What the hell are they doing? But shockingly, it's probably the best movie we have this week, because it is so inventive and so unique. This is Jim Jarmusch who directed this film. I think this was his first film he did after Dead Man, which was a very underrated film, honestly. And he also gave us Coffee and Cigarettes and Broken Flowers. But it's a very weird film, but weird in a good kind of way. It's a film that really does feel unique and very different compared to what you would see from a film like this that should be a disaster on so many fronts, because it feels like they're bringing two different elements in here that should not mix, and yet somehow it manages to work itself so well. Forrest Whitaker really gives a really strong performance. You could tell that this film has a lot of inspiration towards it. It's trying to do something unique and different, and for the most part, it does it pretty well. It's a very underrated film. And it's a film that really was one of the strongest, easily the strongest movie that came out this particular weekend, which really isn't saying a whole lot, because all four films we looked at before this were not that great. But this is actually something I'd highly recommend checking out. Definitely seek this one out. Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai. It looks weird. The trailers look weird, but it's worth it when you watch it in the end.
cumulus formation. It's unlike anything that we've seen so far. We're trying not to go too nuts up here, but we think there's a good chance that this could be water. Of course, if that's correct, then we may have found the key to permanent human colonization.
Yes. Okay, we're ready to light this candle.
Let's go to Mars.
What the hell is that?
No idea, boss.
Prepare to abandon ship.
For centuries, we've searched for the origin of life on Earth. We've been looking on the wrong planet.
So let's start off with some of the most interesting things about this movie. Specifically, this is actually based on a Disney theme park attraction. Everyone thinks that Pirates of the Caribbean was their first attempt to try to bring a theme park attraction to the big screen, but no. This is actually based off of the Rocket to the Moon ride from Disneyland that came out when the park opened in 1955, and then Flight to the Moon, which opened in 1971. And Mission to Mars was an attraction in Tomorrowland in both Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom. And supposedly this is what this movie is based off of. You have a story here that has the first crewed Mars exploration mission going awry. You have Jim McConnell, played by Gary Sinise, helping to coordinate a rescue mission for a colleague. And other characters in here include Tim Robbins, Don Cheadle, Connie Nielsen, Jerry O'Connell, Kim Delaney. It's directed by Brian De Palma. A lot of good elements to it, but man, this is really pretentious. This is Disney trying to do their best attempt to try to copy 2001: A Space Odyssey and make it their own, and didn't work. It did not work. The visuals look pretty good, but this was the first of also many, many movies that took place in space or in Mars. We had stuff like Space Cowboys that came out later in the year, which was seen with much better success. Red Planet, which was not a big success. Then we had Ghost of Mars the next summer, which was one of the worst John Carpenter movies ever made. But this, visually, it looks great, but everything else, it just feels like it felt like they were trying to rip off 2001: A Space Odyssey, and they didn't even try to hide it. They even had a computer that I swear was trying to be too much like HAL 9000. I mean, it was ridiculous how much this movie tries to copy what 2001: A Space Odyssey did so well. That movie was visually gorgeous, and it was very interesting to watch for a number of different reasons, mostly because it was a very experimental film that still holds up after all these years. This thing pretty much just has the same problems that most sci-fi movies nowadays, even especially original sci-fi films, they fail too hard to make their own source material out of something here, and just end up really copying what had already worked in the past. And yeah, the movie just doesn't work. It's got a great cast overall, some really cool visuals overall, but the story is just too much. It gets too pretentious, and like I said, it's trying way too hard to be the next 2001: A Space Odyssey, and it fails on so many different levels. And yeah, it's not a good film. So avoid this one like the plague. Such a disappointment on so many different levels. But that's Mission to Mars. And here's some more disappointment for you. It's a new Roman Polanski film with Johnny Depp, and it's The Ninth Gate.
Engaged in the Kingdom of Shadows, reputed to conjure up the Prince of Darkness in person. I want you to get it for me. You mean the devil won't show up?
I alone have
fathom the Master's grand design, I alone am worthy to enjoy the fruits of that discovery.
The Ninth Gate. Rated R. Starts Friday.
Speaking of movies that try to copy other films from the 1960s, here's one where Polanski's basically just ripping off his own works. I mean, this is a film that's literally being is compared to Rosemary's Baby, and not in a good way. You have a story here where Johnny Depp is a dealer of rare books who is tasked to authenticate a 17th century book that purposely contains a magical secret for summoning the devil. And it gets as pretentious and as boring and as lifeless as you can get. And it's not a good movie. It is not a very good movie. It has too many good talents involved in it. Johnny Depp, Lena Olin, Frank Langella. Roman Polanski can be a really good director, but this just feels like a film where he was getting too... It has a lot of the same problems Mission to Mars does. Has some good visuals to it. It's very stylistic at times, and the atmosphere can be very good for a film like this, but it just fails to really get a grasp of what the kind of story they want to tell here. And it even tries to rip off the studio's own The Blair Witch Project, which was the big hit of the previous summer. This is the same company that put that out, and you could tell they were trying way too hard to copy that success as well. So it's not just ripping off Rosemary's Baby. You're ripping off something that just came out 9 months ago, and just a mess of a film, and it just doesn't work. I mean, this is a film where everybody in here has done so much better works, and this is just a disconjointed mess of a film on so many levels. I'm trying to create my own words here. Misconjoinated. No, it's a disconjointed film all around. Just another one you should avoid like crazy. And, yeah, avoid this one. So that's The Ninth Gate. On to our last film, and that is a film that actually came out last week in wider release, and had been out for a couple weeks prior to this, but I just noticed it in the last episode, so let's talk about My Dog Skip.
Town has a secret,
No, it's buried in here, Toaster. Hey, what is that dog?
but they've got a secret weapon
Go get him, boy.
named Skip. Together, they're solving the mystery of a lifetime.
Spread out.
Coming only to theaters from Warner Brothers Family Entertainment. Look at that dog. My Dog Skip. Rated PG. Starts Friday, March 3rd at a theater near you.
So My Dog Skip is based off of a 1995 autobiographical book of the same name by the writer of this, Willie Morris, and it tells the story of a 9-year-old Willie Morris, played here by Frankie Muniz, which we'll get to him in just a second, as he's given a smooth fox terrier who is also famous, if you've seen classic television in the 90s, but we'll again get to that later, for his birthday, and how the dog fundamentally changes several aspects of his life. Now, Frankie Muniz is, of course, Malcolm from Malcolm in the Middle, but Malcolm in the Middle only premiered 2 months prior to this movie coming out, so he was still relatively new to a lot of people. So the fact that he was the star of this film before this, just 2 months after Malcolm in the Middle premiered, that's something. But the dog in here you might be familiar with. He is actually Eddie on Frasier. But there's 2 dogs that play him in this movie. 3 dogs, actually. One is a puppy, played by Sweetie. But Enzo is Skip in this movie as a middle-aged dog, a grown-up to Skip. But Enzo was also Eddie on Frasier in the early years of, I believe the early years, or maybe the, I'm trying to see when he became Eddie on Frasier. I think it was, no, okay, I see it here now. Moose is also in the movie as an older Skip. Moose was actually the original Eddie, but then when Moose died, I think Moose died in 2000. I guess he maybe was around on here. It's confusing because you don't really know when he's actually on here. But Moose and Eddie both are Eddie. Yeah, I'm getting confused here. Moose and Enzo are both Eddie on Frasier. Eddie was originally played by Enzo's father. Enzo was one of a few puppies bred specifically as possible replacements for Moose, and it became clear that Frasier was a hit in the long run, so he eventually became Eddie later on down the road, even though both Moose and Enzo died after the series ended. Moose died in 2006, Enzo died in 2010. On top of that, you have Diane Lane, Luke Wilson, Kevin Bacon, Caitlin Walks, who was in a number of different shows back then. Harry Connick Jr. is also in here playing an adult version of Willie, Clint Howard. I'm getting names confused on this one here, but I remember seeing this movie in theaters, too. I mean, I saw this on the big screen. It was one of was one of those films that I didn't really know who Frankie Muniz was, so I didn't watch Malcolm in the Middle up to that point. But I thought Frankie Muniz was a pretty good actor in this movie, and then later on down the road, I found out he was Malcolm too. And I mean, he was a very good actor around this time period. I mean, they were setting him up to be the next big thing, but he never really took off. He still is working nowadays, but not as much as he did back around here. And he's really good in the film. Most of the casting in this movie is very good. It is a very solid film overall. It's a nice film, very harmless, and it tells a really good story. And you really do buy into the relationship between the boy and the dog in here. It's a really well-made film on so many different levels, and yeah, at times it can be a little bit of a heartbreaker. It's not Marley and Me levels of it's not Marley and Me levels of depressing. Like, of course, we know how that story ends. I mean, but there are times when you do get a little bit choked up at times because you really do buy into the relationship of the boy and this dog. And when stuff that happens in here that's not very good, I mean, it's very, very hard to really like keep your emotions together, because nobody wants to see an animal get knocked off in this. They don't really show the dog dying, but at the same time, he does get injured in several different parts of the movie, and that's just the great thing about having the two dogs from Frasier on here playing the dog in here, because it's a really good dog actor. It's a really damn good dog actors that they have for this film, and yeah, it's just a really solid film overall. This is directed by Jay Russell, who has done a couple of other decent films around this time. He did Ladder 49, which is a very underrated John Travolta, Joaquin Phoenix firefighter film. And he also did The Water Horse, The Legend of the Deep, which is another kind of an underrated film. So is Tuck Everlasting. He's a solid director overall. And this was kind of his first film after a long break from his first film in '87. I mean, it took him 13 years to get into the film, and got a chance to show it off here, and he does show that he is a decent director, and the film overall is very well done. It's a well-made film, not a classic by any means necessary, but more than enough to say it's definitely worth the watch and definitely worth checking out. Definitely check it out. My Dog Skip.
Hell no. I hate lawyers. I just work for them.
This spring, you may want to rethink your wardrobe a little. Get ready for the truth.
You might want to rethink those ties.
The whole truth.
What makes you think you can walk in there and find what we need?
They're called boobs, Ed.
And nothing but the truth. How did you do this?
Seeing as how I have no brains or legal expertise, I just went up there and performed 634 sexual favors. I'm really quite tired.
Julia Roberts is Erin Brockovich. Rated R. Starts March 17th.
Or as Bart Simpson likes to call her, the prostitute with a heart of gold. I don't know too much about Erin Brockovich, honestly. Most of it I got from this movie, but I don't really know if that was actually true or not, but probably isn't. But let's talk about this film. It's a dramatization of the true story of Erin Brockovich, played by Julia Roberts, who initiates a legal case against the Pacific Gas and Electric Company over its culpability for the Hinkley groundwater contamination incident. It's directed by Steven Soderbergh, who had a pretty big year in 2000. He was nominated for Best Director for this, and then later in the year he directed Traffic. That one he won an Academy Award for directing, and Julia Roberts won her long overdue Academy Award for this performance, and it really is the best performance of her career. I mean, it's a prime example. This is a prime example of a movie where a performance is way better than the movie itself. I think Roberts really does give it her all in this movie. It really is the best performance of her career in this film, and what makes the movie worth it. The movie is not bad per se. It's just a pretty generic Cinderella story. There's not really a whole lot of good twists and turns in this. Really, it does feel like a dramatization of what actually happened in real life here. And like I said, it's not a bad movie per se. It has a lot of good performances all around, not just Roberts, but you see Albert Finney in there, you see Aaron Eckhart, Mark Helgenberger, Peter Coyote, Conchita Ferrero, Cherry Jones. I mean, there's a really solid cast involved in here, but the story is very, very generic. It's not really doing anything new or groundbreaking. It's kind of a been there, done that storyline, but it's the performances that do carry it over, and it is really the strongest performance Julia Roberts has given here. I mean, she does give it her all in this film. You can see why she deserved to win the Oscar for this. I mean, she really has given it her all in this film, and it does work because of her and the performances alone. If the story had been a little bit more creative, a little bit more of a generic storyline, like a film that's bordering on Oscar bait, this probably would have been something really special. But as it is, it's fine for what it is. I don't hate the movie per se. I think it is a well-made film, written by Susanna Grant, who wrote a criminally underrated film that we talked about a little bit before with In Her Shoes, which is great with Cameron Diaz and Toni Collette, which will come out in about 5 years from this point. But film itself is good, but at the same time, I don't think it's one of the greatest films that she's done. Her performance in here, I think, really is what carries the movie is to something that is definitely worth the watch. It's not going to be something you'll want to watch on repeat, but it's one you should watch just for her performance alone. I think it's the one thing that does carry the film over and makes it worth it when it's all said and done. I think it's a well-made film. Good enough on its own. Not one of the best films of the year, but it's a good enough film to say, I would definitely say check it out. Aaron Brockovich. So with that said, on to our next film, our last film actually, and that is Final Destination.
The cabin starts to shake, right? And the left side blows up, and then the whole plane just explodes. The plane's gonna explode! It's not a joke! It's not a joke!
We get thrown off the plane all because Brownie has a bad dream?
I saw it.
The plane! It's gonna blow up! It's gonna blow up!
All 287 passengers are feared dead.
Because of you, I'm still alive.
In death, there are no accidents. No coincidences. And no escapes.
Did it happen again? Did you see Todd die?
What if it was our time? What if we were not meant to get off that plane? What if there is a design, then it's not finished?
By walking off the plane, you're cheating death. You have to figure out when it's coming back at you.
What are you, God now?
He knows which one of us is next.
You have a responsibility to tell me.
I knew I should have hit on Tammy in the pool that time.
Don't let it happen, okay?
Nobody has control over life and death. Unless they are taking lives and causing death. Now, can you promise me that no one else is going to die?
I'll see you soon.
I will say that it's pretty much of a dick move for Darren Sawa to just leave that guy to die as the train is literally coming towards him. Like, I know he didn't have much of a choice, but you could have at least tried a little bit more to get him out of there, or even just try to get him out of there just as the train's coming. But I don't know. That was my first thought thinking that when I saw that for the first time. It's just kind of like, it's kind of a dick move there to just let him go. It's just like, sorry, buddy, you're on your own. But I digress. This is, of course, Final Destination, the first of a series of films that would come out between 2000 and 2011. And here, like I said, you have Devon Sawa playing a teenager who cheats death after having a premonition of a catastrophic plane explosion. He and several of his classmates leave the plane before the explosion occurs, but death later takes the lives of those who were meant to die on the plane. The death is played by Tony Todd, which the trailer does a pretty good job of hiding that fact up until the last bit there at the end. Like, you know something shady is with this guy in the end, but it's a really intriguing premise, and it does have a lot of cool ideas. A lot of unique killing sequences happen in here between all the characters in here. They're all throughout the film, and this one could have easily been another generic late 90s, early 90s lame horror ripoff that was trying to be the next Scream, something like an I Know What You Did Last Summer, but it doesn't really do that. It actually does give it an edge and makes it kind of stand out on its own, because you really don't know when things are going to happen. Like, characters get killed off out of nowhere. Like, somebody will just be talking, and then just as soon as they're done talking, a bus will hit them and kill them instantly. And, like, moments like that, I think, do give this movie an edge, because it does keep you on the edge of your seat. It does keep you invested in what's going on and what's going to happen next. And that's the power of this team. James Wong, and then Glenn Morgan and Jeffrey Reddick. Jeffrey Reddick, of course, comes from the X-Files, and Glenn Morgan and James Wong went on to work on several other films. And their works include stuff like The 100 Lives of Blackjack Savage, as well as Space Above and Beyond, and also some X-Files work as well, along with Jeffrey Reddick. But it's a really good film. It's a film that really could have been another generic late 90s, early 2000s horror movie that was trying to be the next Scream, but in the end, it becomes something very unique and very interesting and leads to a series of films, and the next film would expand on these ideas more and create even more memorable sequences. When we get to Final Destination 2, that's where they really take it to the next level, and they really play with the ideas that they're working with here. It's a really good film. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen these movies. I finally got to watch them this year for the first time. I'm glad I did, because most of them are pretty good. Most of them. 3 is kind of a messed up. 3 is not that great. 4 and 5 are just, but at least they were better than 3. But yeah, this series is worth it just for the creative ways they kill people, and like, it's fun to watch. It's a fun movie. It's a cheesy film, but a good, fun, cheesy film with a cool idea overall. I highly recommend checking it out. Final Destination, definitely seek it out if you haven't seen it.
World of vicious rivalries and violent betrayals.
Rysher, I can't have you hanging with Jews, boy.
What the hell were you doing? We're in the middle of a damn war.
Only one thing is certain.
Sorry, Romeo. Taking your most valued asset.
Romeo must die.
That was a mistake.
Romeo must die. Rated R. Starts Wednesday, March 22nd.
So Jet Li, Aaliyah, and Andrei Bartkowiak saw William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet by Baz Luhrmann and said, well, shit, we can do that too, but this time we're going to have people using Kung Fu in here. You have Kung Fu action star Jet Li playing Romeo to hip-hop singer Aaliyah's Juliet. Lee is an ex-cop investigating the murder of his brother, who has ties with the Chinese mafia in America. Aaliyah plays the daughter of the American mob boss. Neither side approves of their relationship, and so obviously Kung Fu action ensues with a soundtrack by Aaliyah. Of course, we don't know who Aaliyah is, and you might not, because some of you out there might be a little bit too young to remember her. I mean, she was a rising contemporary R&B pop star. She was, at the time, she was considered the queen of urban pop, the princess of R&B. However, she was killed in an airplane crash about a couple weeks before September 11th on August 25th, 2001. She died at 22 years old, but she really was something really special, and it's a shame that the world was too did that to her, because she would have really been she really could have been one of the great musicians that we have today if she was still alive today. I mean, she made a lot of really good songs, and she's not a bad actress in this movie at all, but just the idea that they're doing another contemporary version of Romeo and Juliet after less than 4 years after the Baz Luhrmann film, which is a far superior film, but this is just, it just feels like they're trying to rip it off and trying to combine it with an action film with kung fu elements into it. I think really did hurt it in the end. I mean, the acting in here isn't terrible. Like I said, Aaliyah's doing okay in here. Jet Li is okay in here as well. You have Isaiah Washington, DMX, Delroy Lindo. Not bad casting overall, but the film overall just feels kind of pointless. It's just there to show off, hey, here's Jet Li doing a lot of action stunts, and here it is with the story of Romeo and Juliet, so we can bring the couples in here, not just the teen couples, but the adult couples as well, because why not? But I don't know. Like, if I had to choose between one of the two, I'd say the Baz Luhrmann one is the better film. This one just doesn't feel like it really amounts to anything overall in the end. It doesn't feel like a film that really gives you what it promises when it's all said and done. Plus, it's Andrei Bartkowiak, is a guy who is notoriously known for making some of the worst action movies of recent memory. This is the guy that gave us Dune. This is the guy that gave us Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li. I mean, great cinematographer, just not a very good director. And it's a film that just feels like a cluster when it's all said and done. A film that really does not feel like it really amounted to anything when it was all said and done. It just kind of like, it just didn't feel like it was something that really was, they really went into it knowing what they were going to do with it. But that's just my personal take on it. I don't remember too much about it. What if I remember from it, it's not a movie I really want to watch again, unfortunately. But that's Romeo Must Die. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Here on Earth.
Do you still have feelings for him?
This kid, he's gonna be gone in a few weeks. You're not gonna hear from him again.
Maybe he's different.
Tell me how.
Maybe he loves me.
From 20th Century Fox, Chris Klein, Lily Sobieski, Josh Hartnett.
Some people live their whole lives and never fall in love.
thought I told you to wait in bed.
I have a feeling it might get a little crowded.
Okay, so this trailer really is very confusing on what the hell they're trying to sell you here, but here's the premise from IMDb. The lives of three young people, a rich student, a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, and her boyfriend unexpectedly intersect during one fateful summer in Here on Earth. Chris Klein plays this cocky and brash guy who normally would have crossed paths with the residents of a small town near his posh private school, but when he takes a shiny new Mercedes out for a drive, he locks horns with some of the locals, including Jasper, played by Josh Hartnett. As Jasper's willful girlfriend, Samantha, played by Lily Sobieski, looks on, Kelly and Jasper engage in a dangerous car race that turns disastrous, leaving a popular diner owned by Samantha's mother in ruins. Kelly and Jasper are sentenced to a creatively ironic but fitting punishment. They must help rebuild the diner, and not only does this ruin Kelly's summer plans, he also must board at the home of his rival Jasper. Kelly begins to fulfill his sentence, but refuses to have anything to do with Jasper and his parents. When Kelly again encounters Samantha, the attraction is immediate and strong. First love blossoms in the Berkshire Woods, angering Jasper, and do you really care about what's going on here? You probably got lost the second I said is a sentence. Like, this is manipulation at its absolute worst. This is a film that takes three relatively good teenage actors at the time. Chris Klein, Lily Sobieski, Josh Hartnett. You have Michael Rooker in here as well. So do you have Bruce Greenberg, Annette O'Toole, Elaine Hendricks. A good cast overall here, but man, this is a sappy-ass movie, and not in a good kind of way. It's a movie that just feels like, what is the purpose of this movie? What is the thing that's supposed to bring people into this film, except for the fact that, oh, you got these teen stars in here. Oh, and you have a single by Jessica Simpson and Nick Lachey, who were the two more popular teen stars at the time. This feels like a really bad WB pilot for a TV series that was blown up for the big screen. And, yeah, there's nothing about this movie that works at all. It feels like a really emotionally driven, manipulative mess of a film. I mean, it's an abomination of a movie. Like, this is the type of film that you would see in early January, early February as one of those movies that the studio dumps, but they put it out in March because they thought they had a winner here, and, yeah. Simply and effectively, they did not. So yeah, that's Here on Earth. So let's go ahead and move on to our last film, and that is Whatever It Takes.
You want me to kick you in the face?
The hottest chicks.
Darn, that's what I was gonna wear.
The worst dates.
Are you gonna play or something?
I'm not much of a thespian.
Yeah, well, I hope not. I wouldn't be wasting my time if you're only into chicks.
And the best times of our lives.
I can't believe we don't have dates.
I do. But you don't know her. She's recently divorced.
That's Mommy's date.
Whatever it takes.
You gotta get a faster motor.
Rated PG-13. Opens everywhere March 20.
So this is a modern-day retelling of the story of Cyrano de Bergerac. You have this guy played by Shane West, who's a bit of a geek with the eyes for the school sex bomb played by Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, who induces cringing in her neighborhood and best friend Maggie, Marla Sokoloff, who's a cute, intelligent girl. But popular jock Chris, played by James Franco, also has his eyes on Maggie, and he offers to help Ryan with Ashley if Ryan helps Chris with Maggie. So begins a two-headed variation of the previously mentioned Cyrano de Bergerac. Ryan composes soulful emails for Chris, and Chris advises Ryan to treat Ashley like dirt, which seems to be the only way to get her attention. At first, neither finds it easy to change their ways. Chris comes on too strong, Ryan is too nervous to be a jerk, but as they start to succeed, Ryan begins to see Maggie in a new light and wonders if he's pursuing the right girl. He realizes Ashley's not meant for him, and tries to convince Maggie about Chris's affections for her. Maggie is reluctant to take him back at first, but then realizes Ryan has a change of heart. So they're kind of trying to do what Clueless did for the story of Emma. Like, they tried to do it for a modern generation, but Clueless had the benefit of a great director in Amy Heckerling and some really good talents with Alicia Silverstone, Brittany Murphy, Donald Faison, Paul Rudd, all those these great actors. But here, it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't feel like the sparks are right there. The talent here isn't bad. They have good people in the film, good actors in here, but it's missing that director and that writer to really provide a solid script to give this movie its own its own bite to it, and not look like a film that's trying to be another Clueless ripoff. Because this is only 5 years after Clueless came out, so this is still right around the time when you would get these type of films that were trying to rip off one of the more successful films of the time period. And it's just not worth it in the end. I mean, there's just not a good, you don't really buy into the chemistry between the relationships in the film. The writing overall isn't really that strong. There's a lot of good ideas in here, just not the right execution when it's all said and done, and it really does hurt it in the long run, unfortunately. It's a film that could have been something very interesting, could have been something very fun, but unfortunately it is not. It's a waste of some pretty good talents, a good idea, just not the right script, and not the right director to really make it work, unfortunately. So that is whatever it takes.
Somewhere across the known world, lies a city of legend. A city of mystery. A city of gold.
You fight like my sister. I fought your sister. That's a compliment. Blackguard, heathen.
Now, two con men
It's a map. The city of gold.
are off on an adventure
Oh, shit.
to find paradise.
It's El Dorado.
But their timing couldn't have been worse.
The goat's none. Sacrifice.
All in favor of getting back into the boat, say aye.
Aye.
The Road to El Dorado. The adventure begins March 2000.
So The Road to El Dorado follows these two con men played by Kevin Kline and Kenneth Branagh, who, after winning the map to El Dorado in Spain, wash ashore in the New World. The map leads the two men to the city of El Dorado, where the inhabitants mistake them for gods. You also have Rosie Perez, Armando Sante, and Edward James Olmos among the cast of the film. And this film had a lot of troubles in production. It wasn't quite Emperor's New Groove levels of bad, but it definitely was up there. This was a film that was originally intended to be a straight-up send-off of the Road 2 movies, the ones with Bob Hope and Bing Crosby. The writers of this, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, I think. That was what the original intent of the film was, and they had Will Finn, who's a prolific voice director as well, director and voice actor, and David Silverman of The Simpsons, intended to direct the film. However, the story changed when Jeffrey Katzenberg wanted to make the film a big, epic PG-13 drama, like something like The Prince of Egypt was, but except The Prince of Egypt was not PG-13, but it was a much more adult movie. And then after that happened, they basically just went back to what it was supposed to be before, kind of a rip-off, kind of an homage to the Road 2 movies, and it was called by many people at the time El Dorado, the Lost City on Hold, and it was because there were so many different ways they were trying to make this movie. It really didn't. The history behind this movie, basically, what I'm trying to say here, is pretty messed up. I mean, there's just too much going on here. Like I said, it's not Emperor's New Groove bad. We'll get to that at the end of the year, but it's very much up there, and it's a very underrated movie, honestly. The animation overall is very good. The voice work is top-notch. You've got Kevin Kline, Kenneth Branagh, Rosie Perez, Armando Sante, Edward James Olmos, Tobin Bell, pre-Saw, Jim Cummings, Frank Walker, a really strong voice cast. The animation overall is really, really good. And so is the music. The music by Elton John and Tim Rice surprisingly works really well. And there are a lot of elements to the film I really do like. There are a lot of elements, too, that are not quite as good. Some of the story elements are kind of predictable, and some of the animation is too good for its own good, if there's a way to say that in any other way, shape, or form. But there are definitely times in this movie when the animation is too good for its own good. Like I think Nostalgia Critic said it best. The animation moves a little too fluently and too realistic, because that was the original intent of the film. That was supposed to be like a sort of like with the Road 2 movies. However, the big difference with the Road 2 movies is that they were filmed more as a cartoon, even though those were live-action films. And in this case, it kind of works the opposite way, but it doesn't. But not really. I mean, it's a film that really, there is a lot about it to admire, and of course, it has had a significant cult following over the years, despite the fact that it was not the big hit that it was supposed to be when it came out. But it has gone on to have a massive cult following, and I mean, it's become notably known as a film with a lot of memeable potential to it. I mean, so many moments in this movie happen where there's just like you see gifs of it all the time. You see people, like, you still see people at cons dressed up as the Rosie Perez character. I can't remember her name, Chell. Like, you still see a lot of people dressed up like her. You see people dressed up as Tulio Miguel. So this movie has had a lasting impact after all these years, and quite frankly, I can see why. This is a film that has a lot of elements to it that do work. Not everything about it works overall, but it's fine for what... It's really good. Like, it's really, really good for the most part. Just a couple of little misfires here and there, but other than that, though, it's a fun movie. I would say it's definitely one of the more underrated DreamWorks movies. And really, that's saying a lot, because a lot of DreamWorks' animated films that of recently are very underrated films. We just had Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken come out. That's definitely one that I would put on that list. But this is definitely up there with some of their more underrated gems. It's one that I would definitely say I recommend checking out. It's definitely worth a watch. So that is The Road to El Dorado. On to the next movie, and that is Paul Walker and Joshua Jackson in The Scrolls.
College campuses across America, one secret society has the power to instantly change your life.
You are a skull.
Destroy it. I want to know the truth.
They may never let him out.
Can you imagine that? Joshua Jackson. They're watching you, they're watching me. Paul Walker. You're going to dig your own grave. Leslie Bibb.
What are you going to do?
None of us succeed. The Skulls.
Or The Skulls. What did I say before? The Scrolls? I'm thinking of the things from the Marvel movies, but no, this is The Skulls. This is a story about the conspiracy theory surrounding Yale University Skull and Bone Student Society, and you have, as I mentioned, Joshua Jackson, Paul Walker, and Leslie Bibb, Christopher McDonald, Hill Harper, Craig T. Nelson, William Peterson among the cast in here. This is directed by Rob Cohen. One of his first of many films where he kind of, you have this older director going back, is trying to be hip and appealing to the kids, because he made a lot of movies in the 2000s that were basically films that were trying to appeal to a much younger audience than basically he was. I mean, Fast and Furious comes to mind, Triple X, Stealth, The Boy Next Door, The Hurricane Heist, and most of those movies were not great films. And this one definitely is not. It's a cool idea, just not the right execution overall. I think what does carry it over is the performances by Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker. These are really good performances from these two. Craig T. Nelson, it's fun to see him as an antagonist in the film. It's very very rare to see that from him, because you associate him mostly with Mr. Incredible as well as Coach Hayden Fox on Coach. And seeing him taking on more of an antagonistic role in here is kind of fun as well. It has some elements to it that work, but story-wise, we've seen this done over and over again. It's nothing too special. It's nothing too extravagant. It doesn't really do a lot to make it a must-watch movie. Maybe for a one-time watch it's worth it, but at the same time, I wouldn't rush out to see it if I were you. I would just say, if it's on TV once and there's nothing else on, you could watch it once and then be like, I've seen worse. That's the best way to describe this movie. I've seen worse. So, yeah, not a very glowing review on that one. But I will give a glowing review to our next movie, and that is John Cusack in High Fidelity.
Ashmore lasted for 6 hours, the 2 hours after school, before the Rockford finals, for 3 days in a row. But on the 4th afternoon, Kevin Bannister.
Skank.
I'm looking for a record for my daughter. I just called to say I love you.
Do you even know your daughter? There's no way she likes that song. Oh, is she in a coma?
John Cusack, High Fidelity, rated R. Starts Friday, March 31st.
So this is based off of a novel by Nick Hornby, who's actually had a couple of movies made off of his work. About a Boy came after this, and then Fever Pitch, which is a criminally underrated Farrelly Brothers movie, which surprisingly stars Jimmy Fallon in a really good performance. He doesn't have a whole lot of good film roles, but that's probably his best one overall. But here, you have the story of this guy who, following a breakup with his most recent girlfriend, recounts his most painful breakup, seeking to find a reason for his failed romances. It's styled around Rob talking to the camera, narrating his own story, and you also have people like Jack Black in here, as well as Lisa Bonet among the cast. And It's a really solid film. This is directed by Stephen Frears, who was kind of on a little bit of a downward spiral in the second half of this decade, but in the second half of the 90s. But he comes out of this into this new decade, all of a sudden coming out and really delivering some really good underrated gems like this one. This is a really well-made film featuring a lot of great performances by the cast itself. John Cusack, Jack Black getting to show what he can do. Joan Cusack is also in the film as well. You have Natasha Gregson-Warner in here as well. A lot of elements in here that work. The jokes are very funny. It's very clever, very smart. There are times when it feels like it's trying to be a mix between Clerks and Empire Records, but in a good kind of way. It's not like trying to rip it off by any means, but it is delivering something very enjoyable in the long run. It's definitely worth a watch. I highly recommend checking this one out. High fidelity. Definitely check it out. So that's that one. Let's go ahead and move on to our last film. That is Jimmy Smits in Price of... I see this, and I'm thinking of the other New Line 2000s movie with a similar title, Pride and Glory, but that's 8 years down the road. This is Jimmy Smits in Price of Glory.
Think you're gonna manage him all the way to a title?
A father with a dream.
You gotta try, you gotta want it!
3 sons with a future.
It's my time, Pop. You wanna go run to somebody else?
A fight.
Who got you there?
No one wants to lose.
I did what I know how to do so that you and your brothers could maybe have something that I never could have.
Price of Glory, rated PG-13.
So Jimmy Smits stars as this man with enduring aspirations of becoming a competitor in professional boxing. When he has the intellect, ambition, and agility of a professional, but his career proves to be a short one, and after living out his 15 minutes of fame, he's basically washed up. And he insists his passion for boxing is to his sons, who have grown up learning about the world of prize fighting. The 3 boys begin competing in the ring with Arturo as their manager and coach, but Johnny swiftly displays so much promise that other managers and promoters want to take over his contract and put him and make him the next boxing champion. Arturo feels let down when Sonny decides that he wants to work with another manager, while his other 2 sons rail against Sonny for turning his back on his father and hope Arturo has the same conviction in their talents in the ring. Kind of a little bit too much like Rocky in a way, except that, like, if Rocky had 3 sons and they wanted to be boxers, and like it kind of feels like they were trying to go down that route. And you know, I like Jimmy Smits a lot. I think he's a really great actor. This is one of those ones where you really wanted to pull through, because this is a film that definitely works to his potential and stuff that he's shown in other great shows and movies. But here he's just not really given a whole lot to do. I mean, it's a film that has potential at times, has the potential to be something really good and really inspiring, but it just never really sticks the landing in the long run. It's kind of a disappointment. Yeah, avoid this one like the plague. I really don't have much more to say about this one. This is Price of Glory.